This is where the fun begins.
Well, hello, everyone, and this is breaking news. I myself, along with Stig, has been following the developments, as everybody else, with the direction of Star Wars and contracts being renewed, and what does that mean, and how does it affect the future of Star Wars? And so we both have time. We decided to jump on live stream and discuss that, the direction of Star Wars. And does it really matter anymore? And turn it into something positive by directing you guys into the EU, where everything basically is like the heart of Star Wars is still there, even though we're not going to get anything else right now. And I really don't want them touching the EU and like recreating the stories, because you know what they do. So hello, Stig. Glad to see you.
Hi. Hi.
Hello. Yeah. And so we have Tehillium in here. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. And then Christopher Barker. I'm sure she's staying. And then Timon, hello. How are you doing? And yes, this does count as a live stream, so you will be added to the a chance to win the painting. D. Kerry or whatever. I may have said that wrong. Hi, OG and Stig. Why, hello. And then he's saying hello. And then Jeff, sup, you two. And hello, sup, how are you doing here today? Again, this was, not necessarily planned. This is a spur of the moment, and we wanted to get into the subject here at hand. So what do you think, Stig? What are your thoughts before we get started? Because I shared mine.
No, she's staying. And, the stuff that happened today with Favreau saying that Kennedy's involved and he was praising her, all that stuff. It's nothing new. We've known this for 2 years, because there was a similar interview with Favreau 2 years ago,
right?
And there was another one with Kathleen Kennedy where she's on camera saying, she and the story group are heavily involved with all of the Disney Plus shows.
Right.
So this isn't anything new, and it's weird that people are even surprised. I mean, even if you watch, the rumors and all that on YouTube channels, that's stuff from back then was, always there,
Hey, yo, more rumor stuff. I wouldn't say this rumor. I think this basically is like personal interviews from people who actually are being spoken of, like Favreau and Kennedy, sharing that she, basically is, and even Iger sharing that she is going to stay. So this isn't like, oh, my sources told me, but I can't tell you who the source is, but she's gone. This is none of that. This is none of that. So we're going to go ahead and get an article. Then I'll share the interview with Kennedy stating what she had said. And then we'll also share another statement from Favreau as well. And so, again, this is not about my sources who I cannot disclose said this. This is not that. This is actual evidence that they are talking about her staying, that she is staying, and that Favreau is pleased with her, along with Iger and everybody else. So, hello, Miss Martin Muses. How are you doing? How are you?
I know how she's doing.
How is she doing?
She's doing really well, and she's eating a fish dinner.
Oh, nice. More rumor stuff. I have said this time and time again, official statement is if there's none. Actually, I would say that with what was said about her, even on the Mandalorian season 2 behind the scenes that I said, and them praising her, and then Iger saying that they're pleased with her, that's official statement right there.
Yeah, and she was also the one who hired Rosario Dawson to play Ahsoka. So how can she not be involved at all?
Yeah.
I mean,
right. I mean, I'm not saying you should not have any hope about the direction of Star Wars, But what I'm saying is that eventually she's going to retire, right? Eventually she's going to retire, but does that mean Star Wars is safe? No, it doesn't. Disney Star Wars good, goods are damaged now. It's damaged, just plain and simple. It's damaged. And
and if you think about it, let's say Kathleen Kennedy gets fired tomorrow.
Yeah.
They downright fire the lady.
Right.
The sequel trilogy is still canon. As is all the other stuff. It's not going to go away. You know, it's not going to go away until they decanonize the stuff, which isn't going to happen because they're making money from the Blu-rays and all that stuff. They're not going to. All they would manage to do with that at this point is to piss off, the casuals that are into the new Star Wars.
Right.
So if they do that, they will have lost that half of the fans too. Yeah.
No, I think, is this the right one that I pulled up?
Nope.
No,
this is some Doomcock interview, I think.
Yeah, I don't want that one, so I'll pull this up here. So go ahead and elaborate a little bit more on that, Stieg. If there's anything you want to add more on there while I pull up the article, because I pulled up the wrong one.
Well, I was actually done talking, but I'll talk more. Yeah.
Yes, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, it's it's even if Kathleen Kennedy goes away, people aren't just going to start loving Star Wars. I mean, you have all kinds of shows being in production now that she has her handprint on, right? Those aren't going to magically become good just because she's not there,
right?
Right. The Leslie Headland show is most likely going to be the biggest train wreck. They're not going to cancel it because they've started it.
Right. And so here we have it right here. Let me get this ad out of the way. There we go.
There he is, the fat bastard.
There we go. Right. I love that. Anyways, Jon Favreau touts Kathleen Kennedy praises her work on The Mandalorian. Yeah, so he does. So the thing is that it's rumored that they don't like her, that they are trying to, there's a civil war, and they're trying to undo everything she quote unquote done. Mind you, she is only executive producer, even for like the Disney trilogy, which means she didn't write all of that. No. But she's in charge of everything. And when I show that video, you understand more. So here we go.
And there's thousands of videos out there about how Kathleen Kennedy has fired this and that director for not being on the same page as she is, right? She fired the two people working on the Solo movie. She fired Trevorrow and others. If someone isn't on her, page,
right,
on the same page, she gets rid of them.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, let's say there's a civil war, and Favreau and Filoni, for some reason, are trying to undermine Kennedy.
Right.
Right? Let's say that's happening. How can she not know about that if YouTubers are posting about it all the time?
Right.
How can YouTubers know that and she not? Because if she knows about any boss, really, if any boss finds out that, these two employers, they're undermining you and trying to get rid of you.
Right.
And you have the power to fire them. You're getting rid of them.
Right.
She's incompetent with Star Wars, but she's not dumb. She's not a complete moron.
Yeah, she has a whole filmography behind her with very, very successful films. And I'm not, defending her whatsoever. What I'm saying is that, there's no evidence that she's gone, really. And yes, praising does prove that, that it's successful and that she's successful, because when they praise her, that makes her stay, in a sense. And you worded it better than I have. That once everything's praised, she gets the credit for it. So that means it goes on her record as something good, something positive.
And the problem isn't just the sequel trilogy. The sequel trilogy ruined Han, Luke, and Leia for the most part, right? And Force ghosts, I guess. But then you have stuff like the Mandalorian, where and Rebels, where you can hyperspace from within the gravity of a planet.
Yeah,
they do it all the time.
Yeah, and I think you're answering this person's question because he says only the sequel trilogy ruined it.
But if you can make hyperspace jumps within the gravity of a planet, you've just destroyed the whole Star Wars saga, because it starts with, Padme and Kenobi and Qui-Gon fleeing Naboo.
Yeah.
Right, because there's a blockade. The blockade is in space, and it's in a certain point. They're blocking the hyperspace route. Right? Yeah. So they have to kind of blast through. And then they get damaged, and they have to, do a pit stop on Tatooine. Now, if they could have just jumped from the gravity of a planet, that whole blockade makes no sense.
Right.
It's pointless. They could have just jumped 100 meters above the palace, But which means if they did that, and they should have, if it's possible, they would have never been damaged, and they would have never found Anakin, which means the Skywalker saga could never have happened.
Right. Exactly.
So the Mandalorian and Rebels, and even the Clone Wars, they did it there too. They actually do more damage than the sequel trilogy.
Yeah,
and because the whole Skywalker saga no longer makes any sense, and you could extend it to when Palpatine is trapping the rebels in Episode 6. They could have, because they're blocking the hyperspace routes again, right? So they can't get away. Well, according to these shows, they could have at any time. They could have just jumped, because hyperspace lanes are no longer needed. And the rebels escaping Hoth, where they had to disable the Star Destroyers to get through with the ion cannons. They didn't need to do that. They could have just jumped before they even got into space. So crap like that is it's just as bad as whatever the sequel trilogy did.
Right. And then they're talking. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah, and Ronan Blade is saying they're trying to fit the Mandalorian in the sequel trilogy. Everything starts with the sequel trilogy. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. They said that 2 years ago. Favreau said it.
Yeah, and I'll point up that article that statement that you shared on Twitter today. So that's going to come up too as well. So they're talking about producers and how they don't have anything creatively to do with the movies unless it's Kennedy and it deals with the Disney trilogy. So you get the hypocrisy here. They're saying, oh, well, she did everything for it's all her fault. Well, she's producer of that too. So is she involved or isn't she involved? When it, and that's the thing.
Well, apparently she's involved when Gina Carano gets fired, but not at anything else.
Right.
Which makes no sense. But another thing, though, that people seem to skip over is that Dave Filoni, he was the guy who came up with what they did with Luke in the sequel trilogy, because they put that in the book. It was the Art of the Rise of Skywalker or something.
Correct.
Yeah, they had it's an official Lucasfilm book,
right?
And they had like an excerpt from the meeting when they were planning the sequel trilogy. What little planning there was.
Yeah,
Filoni was the one who came up with it, talking about the matriarchy and how the matriarchy needed to be brought back into Star Wars.
And all over Luke.
Yeah, and he also did that speech where he was bashing fans for not liking Rey,
right?
Because feminism,
right?
And then lo and behold, he's gotten to produce with the upcoming shows 10 shows he's gotten to produce under Kathleen Kennedy.
Right.
So don't tell me he's at odds with Kennedy. I mean, he's earning a lot of money from Kennedy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he's keeping himself in business by toting the same line, and he's doing it very willingly. I don't see any hesitancy in that whatsoever. He may not be getting involved in politics and stuff. That's fair enough. But
no, he's actually more. Well, to be fair, she hasn't bashed the fans as far as I
Right.
know.
She hasn't either. I
She's
haven't seen
touted her agenda, but she hasn't attacked fans.
Correct.
Some people she hired have done that, though. The story group and many of the writers and stuff. But I don't think she has, though.
Right. And so the thing is, okay, so they say that the producers, executive producers, have nothing to do with what's going on, but they do have say. They do have rights to say what should and shouldn't go, and that's even proof with George Lucas, right? Because he was a producer and even director of his own movies, and he still went in and said this needs to change, that needs to change, we needed to redo this, that, and this. So they do have that right, but the thing is, like, when we say she has a big filmography behind her, then people shoot her down. Well, she's only producer, so that doesn't count. She's writing coattails. Then we go back and talk about the Disney trilogy. Oh, she's responsible for everything, and she's a producer. Then what is it?
Yeah, and you have that I can't remember what it was. It was like these little short cartoon things about the old trilogy. The one where Leia kicks Chewie in the ass.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they were called.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like the Galaxy cartoons. I don't remember the full name, but yeah, I know
Filoni was a producer on that one.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get any stick for it,
right? And then the Blue Pig says, "I think Filoni can write good stories about it. Be more better if it was in an explored era instead of the one already established stuff that he has to write over."
Well, the problem there is that Filoni almost completely relies on member berries.
Right.
There's cameos all over the place to get people to cheer. The Mandalorian is full of it. The Bad Batch is full of it. Rebels is full of it. He's just relying on people going, ooh, Scout Troopers, or cool, Rex showed up, or whatever it is. It's all member berries.
Right. It is. So let's get into the article here so we can get into the other stuff. So basically, the Mandalorian creator and executive producer Jon Favreau recently touted Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy on her work in Mandalorian season 2. I've been waiting for this to come out for the season 2 behind the scenes footage that they do. Favreau praise comes during the recent release of the second episode of Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, titled Making of Season 2 Finale. Favreau opened the episode stating, "I think there's an interplay," and I don't know how to do copy voice or whatever, so you guys have to deal with me, "with storytellers and the people you're telling the story to. You find that the emotions run very deep with Star Wars." Yes, they do. That's why we're here talking about it. "And people's relationship, especially people who grew up with it from a young age, feel a lot of connection to it." Yeah, he's got that right. And again, he may understand people, fandoms and stuff like that, but does it mean that he is honoring the lore?
I think he's excellent when it comes to Marvel and things.
Yeah.
Because in Marvel, you have different timelines. Yeah, you can adapt different, well, Marvel has kind of been rebooted quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a reboot, multiverse kind of situation.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff, which is fine. That's what Marvel is, and DC is pretty much the same too.
Right.
But Star Wars isn't like that. It's supposed to be one timeline,
right?
And everything is connected. So if you make a standalone movie or a TV show that's supposed to be very important in the grand scheme of things. And you make a big mistake in either of those, it will affect everything. It's like a domino effect.
Right. And that's what we've been noticing in the last, 5 years.
Yeah,
this domino effect happening.
Yeah. And, the EU did some mistakes too.
Oh, yeah.
But they also fixed it. And the EU novels and stuff, they never had any effect on the movies because they were on the lower tier of canon. So it wasn't possible that, if they had like if they did a novel and, Han Solo has 3 penises, right? Because he's an alien, that wouldn't affect the movies.
That's funny how you just went straight to that, but I get it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
so
it's a trendy thing these days.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah. Because Bloody Nina Infinity had me Google hentai. I didn't know what it was. And lo and behold, there was a troll. well-equipped, doubly equipped troll, having fun with a lactating lady.
Oh, okay. Well,
I can't unsee that. I really can't.
You fell for it. All right, we'll discuss that later.
Well,
That's
I
fine.
was curious. I wanted to know what it was. Didn't think it was that bad.
All right, so he continued. I think the one constant thing I'm feeling is that people care deeply that it's being handled correctly and that it's being handled respectfully. I would beg to differ on that.
It's not
It
being
means
handled respectfully.
Nope. It means so much to them, and they want to see it continued into the future and feel like it's all connected with consistency. It's not
There's bullshit. There's no consistency. There's not
right.
even consistency between the episodes of
What? Look at the picture.
Yeah.
Who
There's
is in this
Pedro.
picture? And who basically has been saying that she's banned from set? That's one rumor. That she's not involved. That's another.
Yeah, I was told she was on the set once, but well, I've seen her on 2 different occasions. She was wearing something else, so she's obviously been there more than once.
Maybe she just changed outfits. Maybe.
Yeah, I would want to change too if I got near Pedro.
All right, so Favreau then went to praise Kennedy. And we're very lucky that between Lucasfilm and Kathy, the whole group that we have are incredibly supportive and encouraging.
Interesting that he calls her Kathy, though, not Kathleen or Miss Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a friendly thing, Kathy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like a close connection right there that, you would, that's my friend, and I don't call her Kathy, or Kennedy or Kathleen. It's Kathy. Hey, Kathy, what's up? That's like,
which is actually what George Lucas and Spielberg called her, too.
Right. And later in the episode, Favreau would offer more praise for Kennedy as well as provide details on her role for the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. What? Kennedy was provided details for her role for season 2 finale of The Mandalorian that saw the return of Luke Skywalker. See, I predicted this. When that happened, when the nostalgia bait of Luke Skywalker came out, mind you, you could still love it. I'm not bashing you. I just think it's nostalgia bait.
It's okay to love it, but that there, when everyone lost their minds, screaming Star Wars was saved, and this is the way, and they were doing those praisings of that meme, someone praising Filoni like he was some kind of god or whatever. Yeah, all that stuff was all over social media.
Right,
Disney saw that. And don't tell me that did not help get Kathleen Kennedy a new contract,
right,
or keep her job as well.
Yeah,
so I'm sorry, but if you were screaming Kennedy out, blah blah blah, and then you praise this, you achieve the opposite.
Yeah, and you even said that you were like, congratulations, you just gave her back her contract.
Oh yeah, people got nuts when I said that. And lo and behold, and don't shoot the messenger, okay?
Yeah, right. And so this is what I stated. I'm like, I bet you that she had something to do with the return of Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. It's not Luke.
Right.
I see people go, yeah, this is the Grandmaster Luke we were waiting for. First of all, it's only 2 or 3 years after Return of the Jedi, or something.
Yeah,
something like that. But he's not a Grandmaster in that short of a time. He's still a Jedi Knight. In order to become a Jedi Master, you have to have trained a Jedi apprentice up to knighthood.
Right.
That's when you qualify as Master. You basically created a new Jedi Knight. I'm not sure what the Grandmaster thing entails, though, but it doesn't happen in a few years.
Right. Right.
Yeah, Walt Guitar says it's a bit of a Trojan horse situation. Yes, that's exactly what it is. People basically dangled. They basically dangled what people wanted to see in front of their face. And it bought them exactly what they wanted. That's all they had to do. dangle Luke for
Right.
2 minutes. And I'm not saying the scene is any kind of bad or anything like that. It looked like Luke, but in the wrong timeline, right?
Right. We in the original lore, if you're privy to Luke's advancement and training and all that, even like by time the Yuuzhan Vong, or maybe after that is when we see Luke that powerful, but still, he still had trouble with certain things. And that
Shay Nolan is explaining to me that Grandmasters are elected. Yes, you're right. Spot on.
Right. All right. So this goes on here.
So who elected him, right? Who elected Luke Grandmaster if he's the only Jedi?
Who elected Rey Grandmaster, basically? Remember that debate just recently that the company is now saying Grandmaster because she's the only one left?
Yeah.
And she hasn't had trained anybody underneath her at all.
Yeah, which means if everyone on the planet dies and I'm the only one left,
you could be anything you want.
Yeah, that means I'm a nuclear physicist by default, even though I don't know shit about it.
And then Lady Otoriel says, we all know there was no civil war, right?
Yes, we do.
And then, so basically he continued, not only does she understand how to create environment where we can have all the tools that we need to explore and experiment and be creative, but also knows what it takes to incubate ideas and understand the significance of when you do it right, what that can represent. So basically he's praising her talents and all of that right here.
Yeah, and it could be she is actually superb to work with. We don't know.
Yeah,
but
anything otherwise, right?
This everything he's saying is backed up by interviews he did 2 years ago. He's saying exactly what he did back then.
Right.
And I see people go, yeah, they're forcing him to say this. No, they're not.
They're not. They're not.
That's illegal, actually.
Right. And I don't think that he would stay in a company that forces him to say something against his will.
No.
Honestly, I mean, I wouldn't. He is big enough to where he can go elsewhere without a problem. And so on and so forth. All right. So Favreau's comment echoes what Disney CEO Bob Chapek has to say about Kennedy back in March. First, he lavished praise on her during an appearance to a virtual conference hosted by Morgan Stanley. He described her as a stellar creative talent. He then went on to describe her as a genius. Wow. Chapek said, that's where, and then Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy are at their best, managing that mythology so that there are little pieces here and there that they dribble and they can connect. That's really amazing. Genius.
Except they don't connect. That's the thing. Yeah. If it connected, right?
Right.
Fine. I might even have been on board with a new canon if they'd done it right.
Right. And that's what we kind of all hoped for, even us who, basically walked away for the EU. If they were creating a new canon, it was done well and our EU was left alone, right? Then maybe we would have explored that as well. So
yeah, because back when the EU was canceled, right? I was gutted, but Disney did say that they were gonna have perfect synergy between all the books, comics, TV shows, games, and movies. That's what they said. And all of those would be on the same tier of canon.
Yeah.
So a comic would be just as canon as the old trilogy.
Right.
And they had appointed a story group to make sure there was perfect synergy. So I was like, okay. And Disney had just started doing, they'd been doing the Marvel movies, and they were doing well. So there was no reason to think they were going to screw up. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll give them a chance, right? If they want to do it over again and make it fit, fine, I'll give them a chance. But then they didn't. I mean, there's just absolutely no continuity. I mean, even with the stuff Filoni makes, the Clone Wars, Rebels, Mandalorian, he had them go to Tython in the Mandalorian, and Tython was in the Outer Rim, I think, on that show.
Yeah,
but in
the Tython is Outer Rim when it's supposed to be in the core. It's supposed to be one of the planets that's hard to reach, like this.
Yeah, and it was in the core on the Clone Wars, right?
That I believe, I vaguely remember, but of course it was in the core in Dark Empire, and that goes with Mount Tessus and Wayland. Wayland is originally in the unknown regions, like in the like near the outer rim unknown regions area, right? And now they have it in the mid core in the war. So
which is and you have in Rebels they go to Kessel and free some Wookiee slaves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Solo movie, which takes place pretty much around Rebels, I guess.
Yeah.
In the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
They go to Kessel as well, and there's a space storm around Kessel. That wasn't there on Rebels.
Yes, it wasn't there.
On Rebels, it's just the planet's surface looks the same though. It's rocky and all that, but so the space storm just vanished in a year, or what the heck happened?
There's a lot of like discrepancies, like even with Dathomir and all that stuff, even in from what Filoni did in the beginning of the Clone Wars and stuff before the buyout and stuff, that we can share as evidence that he does not, honor the EU like many people say.
Also, he kept the look of most of the Night Sisters from the EU, because the Clone Wars when it started was EU,
right?
Because everything that wasn't the movies was EU, because it expanded on the movies.
Right.
But so he's already blended it with the EU, because he couldn't stick with he was supposed to follow the EU with the Clone Wars, but then he didn't, and then they got to do it got added to the Disney canon,
right?
Which means you now have a big chunk of the EU in the Disney canon, even though
it doesn't fit.
Canceled everything around it.
Right, and it doesn't fit. I'm going to get to this super chat here. So this is I like order 66, but you have 36666. The brief 10 minutes of respect given to Luke in season 2 is probably the high watermark that Disney, with the S, that's a money sign, Star Wars will ever achieve after discrediting it. And you have a point there, my friend. You do.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you had Luke show up, and it's fine, Luke behaving like a Jedi, nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But you had the Dark Troopers. They got turned into Roger droids in that scene. And Dark Troopers, if there had been 2 Dark Troopers there versus a Jedi Knight, the Jedi Knight would be dead because of the sheer firepower from the Dark Troopers.
Yeah, I remember when I seen this, I think I stayed up late to see what was going to go on because I was very curious. And I think after I seen this, I got a hold of you, and I think my time and your time were like 9 hours apart, right? And so you were basically the time frame. It was day, and it was really like night for me, and I was just going on and on and on. And I remember how you're like, they made them like idiots, they, they're not, they're not supposed to be easily defended, like are defeated like that.
Yeah, I mean, they even hyped them up on the show,
right?
And then. One of them punches the Mandalorian 10 times in the head.
Yeah.
And the Mandalorian takes no damage. But in the previous episode, Gina Carano punches him once and he's almost knocked out, which means Gina Carano punches harder, or rather Cara Dune punches harder than a Dark Trooper.
Yeah, that was
which means their punch is weaker than a human's.
Yeah. Yeah, right. That makes no sense whatsoever, really.
Yeah.
They're machines versus
and then you see them punch the metal door and it bends.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, Cara Dune is stronger than that.
Yeah.
And that's just from their own canon.
Right. And then Soul Assassins has a point here. You have to be Force sensitive to find Typhon, and that's even dangerous. And even Force sensitives would the planet would become unbalanced, like the moons, if there's not a proper amount of Force sensitives on that planet and stuff, and the Force is being used. So that didn't make sense either. So if you get into the lore, you'll know what that means for Typhon. And then Wild Katurn, I think it's good. I think it's kind of asinine that they changed the name from Wayland instead of Wayland. Yeah, I've seen that change too.
Yeah, they changed Korriban to Morriban for a while. I think it's I think they've gone back on that though. Now they're saying that you could say both.
Yeah. So let's get on to this article here so we can move on to the other stuff, and then we'll talk more about the EU. Chapek stated, we just, just like Kevin and Kathy and Sean at the studio, Jimmy, Dana, Peter, and John are absolute treasures for us from a creative standpoint. Driving this machine, but giving you the type of content that you saw at the investors conference.
Yeah, the one that nobody cheered for.
Right. And then not only did Chapek praise Kennedy during the virtual conference in March, but he also stood behind her during the Walt Disney Company's 2021 annual meeting of shareholders. In a question and answer portion of the meeting, he was asked by George from San Antonio, and I remember that, Texas, are you guys looking to fire Kathleen Kennedy for asking her to resign and promote somebody like Filoni or Favreau or both to the co-counsel? And they act like it's some kind of council, like they can get rid of someone, just add someone that doesn't have experience either. People don't realize you have to have the experience, right?
Yeah.
Chapek responded, we've been absolutely thrilled that we can have the kind of creative talent in our company, the liking of Kathleen Kennedy running Lucas. And we look forward to having Kathy, there we go again, Kathy, directing this, the activities of the entire Lucasfilm organization for many years to come. And I remember that because people are saying, oh, that was just a half-hearted statement.
And yeah, blah, blah, blah. But keep in mind, if things start going really bad, he might change his mind. So they might get rid of her.
Yeah.
In the future, but right now, there's no reason to.
Right, because of the success of the Bad Batch that people are praising.
The one everyone said. Yeah, the Bad Batch. You mean that show everyone told us to boycott because of Gina Carano,
right?
And that they're watching anyway.
Right.
That one. Yeah, it's not helping if you pay for it.
Right, it's not helping whatsoever.
Promote it.
Yeah. Not only do Favreau's comments reinforce what Disney CEO Bob Chapek had to say about Kathleen Kennedy, but they lead one to believe that the recent rumor that Kennedy will see her contract renewed is true. The rumor came from, and this is where the rumor comes from. Okay, so another rumor here. The rumor came from scooper Mike Sutton, who declared sources indicate there were never any discussions to fire Kathleen Kennedy, despite rampant online speculation and rumors. And so that's what he's reporting. And I believe he was a reporter as well. Sutton even cited one of his sources who told him Kathleen Kennedy won't be Lucasfilm president at this point only if she decides to retire. Disney strongly believes she will continue guiding Star Wars to greater heights. So there's a mixed thing here. I think that because there's so many projects under her name, I think, I believe that, and it's at the standpoint because there's no announcement of any new one coming in to succeed her, right? Usually there's
she's basically flooded the future with products that she's producer on, Right. It's going to be a heck of a job for someone to take over halfway through all that.
Yeah, and even that source told him, and again, this is rumors, and but the thing is that what we hear and we see from the actual people, I will take more credit than what is rumored sources, right? Because that's how I am. You need to provide the information, the proof to me. That's how I've always been. That's why I don't believe these bigger channels or any channels that says, oh, she's gone and blah, 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 this and blah, blah, blah. Well, tell me.
Well, I think that it's that quote I posted today. It has nothing to do with this. It was just a cool quote that I thought was relevant to, how politics are today and all that. And I said, people, what was it? People will believe a lie because they want it to be, because they badly want it to be true, or because they're afraid it is true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, because if people peddle rumors and stuff, drop a rumor, it's all fine. But a lot of people spend too much time trying to make that rumor seem as true as possible. So the rumor bit gradually goes away and people just accept it as fact. But whenever there's a rumor, you also need to, not just look at the indicators of it being true, but also the indicators of it not being true. right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to look at it from both sides.
Right.
And I think a lot of people fail to do that because they want it to be true.
Yeah.
And that makes it very easy for people to sell those rumors.
Yeah.
Because they're basically selling people what they want to hear, which is what televangelists are doing. They're like, you know, donate $200 and you'll get a miracle. Right? It's the same thing. They're just selling miraculous rumors.
Well, I'm gonna do this, and this will probably make you think. Okay, so like here in the United States, you know, we have the media taunting the same message, whether it's about masks or whatever. The more you hear it, the more you believe it, right?
Yeah, because you hear it all the time.
That's the same tactics as these channels. And Liquid Blake says, "Greeting from your future ruler of Earth. I was wrong." Oh wait, wrong accounts. Yeah, so mind you, it's fine, you know, sharing your opinion, like is she gone or not, and it's fine, like, okay, well, I hope she's gone, it's fine sharing your opinion. But when it just goes over and over and you've been proven more than most that the rumor, you know, your rumors haven't fruitioned, I think there's a point where you got to sit back and really look at the bigger picture and look at the evidence, you know, before you decide to do another video like she's out and my sources still confirm it. You know, so that's just me. And so I do have a super chat here from Terminus, $2. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It's greatly appreciated, and especially for everybody who's here. Could Filoni actually be worse than Kennedy or KK?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, she's in charge, right? The buck stops with her.
Right.
But he's the one doing the creative writing, or rather, it's not creative, but you know. Let's see. I've been attacking Midnight's Edge unfairly for a while now, so you're not completely innocent as well. Well, I haven't been making up any rumors, have I?
No, you don't know the whole story. No, he hasn't been attacking them.
Nope, not really. I've been attacking their points.
Yeah,
but
there's a difference in that.
Yeah, and I actually literally said earlier, you know, about the rumors.
Right.
I said it was fine to put rumors and whatever on YouTube. Said it 5 minutes ago.
And it's like, what's the Midnight's Edge? That's just another show on YouTube. Let's see. If CNN, MSNBC, and my local news say the same thing, it must be true. Facepalm. Right.
Yeah.
So
and
when
you know what, though?
Collaborate
even if it's a rumor, it doesn't mean it's not true. It could still happen. Maybe sometimes the rumors are spot on. Right? But if there's a lot of stuff that basically debunks the rumors from earlier and people are ignoring that, then you'll get stuff like this. All of a sudden, the you know, people are upset because Kathleen Kennedy is staying.
Right.
But it was in the cards the whole way.
Oh, he's referring to yesterday. You do not know the whole story, and we're not going to get into it right here.
I wasn't attacking Midnight's Edge. I was attacking Tom because he was lying.
Right. There's more to the
story. He literally said on that stream yesterday that our sources said that Kathleen Kennedy was going to be out when the contract's over, and that she had absolutely no creative control, and that she'd only been on the set once. And then this interview pops up, which proved every damn thing I said was true.
And then so we'll finish this and we'll get into the other two things that backs us up, past sources. The source added, she will have the power she always had. And so there we go. And making of season 2 finale hit Disney Plus on August 25th. Disney describes the episode in a press release as behind the scenes look at the making of the celebrated chapter of The Mandalorian with a focus on the technology used for recreating Luke Skywalker. They add it delves into the collaborative process, including working with Mark Hamill to create an authentic and fitting recreation, and explores the immense pressure and responsibility the filmmakers had in bringing back one of the most important characters in film history. You think that Luke's okay? This is where I laugh. If Luke was that friggin' important, then why did they handle him the way they did in this trilogy?
Yeah, well, he was important though, but then Episode 9 happened, and Anakin wasn't the chosen one anymore.
Right.
Which means he's not important. Both him, Anakin, Kenobi, Yoda, they never mattered. It was all about Rey Palpatine.
Right.
And Anakin didn't destroy the Sith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so basically he has a few questions underneath here. So we'll go ahead and close this one out. And the thing is like I said, is that look at all the evidence, like past and present, what really lines up. And when people talk about each other, that work with each other and praise each other for the creativity, and then the boss says that, oh, she's not going anywhere, and stuff like that, that's more evidence than so-called rumors. And that's how I see that. And so I'm going to go ahead and share another clip here. And this is the interview she had in 2019. And let's get to it right here. And we'll get into it a little bit more. Let me rewind that here.
How involved are you going to be in the projects announced in Disney Plus, and what's next for what's coming to the platform?
Yes, we're debuting The Mandalorian in November, and I've been very involved in that. In fact, the same story group that works on the films works on the Disney Plus projects as well. So everybody's talking to everybody.
So it's going to keep the pace and everything. Thank you very much.
All right, so I just wanted to share that portion of the clip.
Yeah, that was actually what I was getting at in that stream yesterday. Mm-hmm. This is from 2019.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
she's involved.
She shared everybody in the story group, including her, are who are involved in the films are also involved in Disney Plus. And
they're involved with the Disney Plus stuff. Right. I think some of the story group people have even said so on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few times.
And then I'm going to tell you another thing, Roaming Gamer. They said their piece, and when that was brought up and stuff, Stiggs apologized. So if you were there for the whole time, you would have known that. Tom didn't apologize for attacking Stig, but this is not the place. So
no, technically I started it when I said that his statement was bullshit.
Well, yeah,
that's what started it.
Yeah, but
was it bullshit? Is Kennedy out?
You could make a discussion.
No, she isn't.
Not agree with.
We just had this article today. Just proved me right.
Right. And you can disagree with someone on chat. That's not attacking someone. Saying something that they said is bullshit is not attack.
No, but I did say other things. That was an attack.
Okay. Well, see, I wasn't there.
But so did he.
My point is, after everything was said and done, and after they said what they did, that was pointed out, this is not the place, and Stig apologized. That's the point I'm getting at. It's done.
He's not completely wrong, though, and I'm owning up to that. I did attack him.
Okay.
Yeah. But so did he.
Mm-hmm.
And what started it was this, and guess what? Proven right today.
Right. Just another one. So then I'll share this last clip here, and let me go ahead and just open it up fully so that we just see the exact window of it and not, everything else that's going behind it. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So here it is. This is Favreau, right?
Yeah, I think this is from 2019 as well. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Okay. But I've seen this a long time ago.
Right. So it was in the beginning development phases of The Mandalorian and stuff when Favreau was brought on. But the art of The Mandalorian also shares that Favreau was brought in by Kennedy, and that they've been talking. I think this is part of it, right? I don't want to talk about anything that might be fun for people to discover. Favreau says we do have conversations. Part of that, what's fun is fun to see if we could merge the worlds of the original trilogy, the prequels, and the sequels. There you go. This shares that they are linking all of the movie trilogies that are in existence in Star Wars, right? The Clone Wars.
Side note, we see that in the Mandalorian because they reference Canto Bight and I think it was another thing too from the sequel trilogy.
Right.
So it's being referenced directly.
Right. And then basically says the Clone Wars, and that's been considered canon up to this point, and we've been considered part of, and what's been considered part of Legends. I think the show offers an opportunity to bring in all those elements, no matter what your flavor of Star Wars ice cream you like, there will be something to enjoy, but you're asking the right question. So basically he's saying, oh yeah, well, we're going to add everything to it. We're going to add, even if we're adding frosting to the shit that we're doing, you can enjoy it because it might be the flavor you like.
Yeah, and they've been ripping off Legends quite a bit with the Mandalorian. You know, you have the HK droids showed up, completely useless. You know, they move like the Roger droid, almost slower. And then you have the Dark Troopers, and I guess Tython. And now they're probably going to do the Wayland stuff.
Right.
So what he's saying there, though, is it's exactly what they've done.
Right. He's not lying. There's no lying. Yeah, he's not lying. There's no secret to what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're praising themselves, and they're praising Kennedy and all of that for the direction that they're taking. They're not decanonizing anything. They are including everything, and so even with these hints of like Wayland being brought in, Mount Tantus is not the same as it's depicted in the original lore. I made a video on that. It's not the same. There is no ports at the top of the mountain like we see in the the Bad Batch. The mountain is very disclosed, so when you see it flying in, it looks like an ordinary mountain, and that's how Palpatine wanted it because it was his secret facility, right? So you couldn't tell that there was a facility like you could tell there is one there. Wayland is in a different location as well. There are no two bases or two facilities on Wayland either, like they're showing in the Bad Batch. So you see they're rewriting, and people are praising this. People are praising it, thinking it's the best thing since it was invented in the original lore. It's not. They are rewriting it. They are changing it. Everything that was good about it is now being changed. So why praise it?
Yeah, it's watered down, and it's like, you know, the toy looks the same, but the story's not there, you know?
Yeah.
It's I mean, those droids Luke killed, they were called Dark Troopers. They looked like them.
Yeah.
But they didn't behave like them at all. And they didn't have the backstory, you know? The Dark Troopers were created during the Rebellion era by a Grand Admiral or an Admiral. It's one of the Kyle Katarn stories.
Oh yeah, your favorite character, Kyle.
Yeah, one of the favorites. One
of the favorites. And Soul Graven says they can and will cherry pick anything from the Legends they want. Sadly enough, not doing any of it justice, of course, but this is what Disney does. Exploits properties they acquire or find success with. That's right. They don't want to honor it. They discarded it where they should have just kept it. And then the areas that needed to be filled in, they could have possibly filled it in and still got everybody interested in reading and continuing the stories if they wanted to without damaging the property. Instead, they threw it out, said they wanted full creative control. And basically now are bastardizing that. They are not showing any creativity whatsoever. Yeah,
and they can legally do that, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But ethically, it's because we are talking art, right?
Right.
The storytelling is art.
Right.
And they're basically editing art, which is usually considered a bad thing. You know?
Yeah. The Jedi Riftster. The original work is the High Republic. What was the result of that? a freaking rock.
Yeah. The only rock thrown in the Lucasfilm Civil War.
Right. Oh,
You know
God.
what? That rock was magma before it was cool.
Okay. Right. Right. All right. And then, yeah, so we have this right here. So with this all being said, you guys, I know that everybody wants hope. I know everybody wants good Star Wars, our continued good Star Wars.
You know what?
Hmm.
That rock, if they sell action figures of it, that's going to be really easy to bootleg.
Right.
All you need is a chisel.
Oh my God. They're just going to go to a quarry and just pick a bunch of rocks up and put it in packaging. That's it. That's without having to worry about that actually.
It would have been awesome if they had named him a Quarian.
Oh.
A rock Quarian.
Yeah, rock Quarian. I get it. Right. And then Geode was the first and last rock thrown. Okay. And so my point that I was getting at, and that I want to ask you guys here, and it's also pinned up here. Do you think that Disney Lucas or Disney Star Wars is now damaged goods? Do you think that there is hope for Disney? And even when she's retired, do you think that there's hope?
No, because let's say she retires in 5 years, right?
Right.
And she's been there since 2012,
right?
Or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So that's a pile of years with comics, novels, TV shows, all that stuff. It's not going to get decanonized. They're not going to do that. I mean, it's over a decade of content. You know.
Yeah.
The damage is done.
Right. And, they started out with the movies, and George, realized it was success, and then, they brought in and they did comics, which were basically, a lot of them were like kind of standalone, and they eventually turned into what if stories and infinities. Right. And then we had, and this is like a brief history. Then we had the Empire Trilogy, which then turned into started being called the Thrawn Trilogy, that broke ground with the EU. And they realized, because it was so beloved at the time, and it still is today, that we want everything to be consistent. And guess what? Even Dark Empire and even the Heir to the Empire, or the Thrawn Trilogy, the authors were given Western Games material to go off of, right? And then George is like, this is a good idea to make one continuity. So in 1994, they brought out the statement in Inside of one of the Insider magazines, saying that they're going to keep a continuity. And that was the birth of continuity, was through the Thrawn or the Empire Trilogy. And then we started getting everything written, and everything started going into place. At first it was very sticky, right? At first it was like they had to still consider things going on. Then George decided to do the prequel trilogy, so some things didn't quite fit. It wasn't major, but they still had to correct some stuff. So they were still learning how to keep continuity. And once the storyline has started being created, then continuity started to get cleaned up and really good. And then the Clone Wars happened.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Clone Wars messed up everything. But
right.
Not the first couple of seasons.
Yeah.
When George actually was involved.
Right. And I've had that argument about that again.
The stuff that got really messed up with the prequels is the Dark Empire story.
Right.
And I see a lot of people use that as an example of, hey, yeah, the EU didn't make sense because the Dark Empire.
Right.
And they're right. It doesn't make sense because of that. But the Dark Empire was written as a one-off sequel to the old Marvel comics from the 80s. And they were not canon.
Right.
They were on a separate canon, and it was created for that. But before they had the time to do the Dark Empire storyline, Marvel pulled the plug on the Star Wars comics because the
Mhm.
sales were dropping. And
Yeah.
I get that because the last 10 or 20 of them were really bad,
Mhm.
in my opinion. But,
Yeah.
the sales were dropping.
Right.
So, and then later, the writer was talking to Dark Horse Comics, and they were going to do a Star Wars comic thing. And he suggested the Dark Empire because back then there was still no EU, right? Because he had a story written and all that, and then they did that.
Yeah.
And then some of the books kind of tied into that because Dark Empire was well received.
Yeah.
And so that's why it doesn't fit. It was never intended to fit in an EU. It was added later, and kind of a little bit of a mistake doing that, right?
Yeah, I mean, when there's growth starts happening, and ideas start fruitioning and stuff like that, there are going to be those growing pains kind of deals, and you are going to get some stuff wrong, and that's common. But Disney, Lucasfilm has no excuse. The growth is already there for them to expand off.
Yeah, all they had to do was to stick with the 6 movies.
Right.
That's all they had to follow, really.
They had the foundation right there in front of them.
Yeah.
They screwed it up.
They had a foundation and then a blank slate for the rest of it. All they had to do is watch the movies a couple of times, make notes. This is how it works. This is how it doesn't work. That's all they had to do. And then just as soon as someone writes a book and it fits, then the next one would have to make sure his book fits with the previous book and the movies.
Yeah.
They could have just made a kind of like a Wikipedia based on whatever they publish as they go along, and just keep the rules there. Like, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do.
Right. Yeah.
They just had to be systematic about it, really. But then they just I don't know, maybe they kind of panicked and they just tried to pour stuff out fast, because that's what it looked like what happened with the sequel trilogy.
They were too excited to get, because they figured, oh, well, it's been years since we had a movie. Let's go ahead and they didn't have no plan. So that's evident right there, right? And so they're like, let's get a movie out as fast as we can, when they didn't realize that the EU that they decanonized basically was still keeping Star Wars afloat.
Oh, yeah. Even Disney said that it was the EU that saved Star Wars.
Right.
The books, the games, what have you, that was what kept Star Wars alive between the trilogies.
Right. And then, hashtag continuity matters. It does. It really, really does. So let's get into that, Stig. Let's go ahead and start talking about the positive stuff and start stepping away from this. We already said our piece. We from the evidence shared that Kennedy's not going anywhere right now. Yeah, she is going to retire. That's just something that we all know, right? Yeah. But she has projects underneath her that she's still taking and she's overseeing. All evidence prove that she still is. If by chance she isn't, then I'll just say, hey, I was wrong. Simple as that, right? But
even if let's say she gets fired tomorrow, she'll be gone, but it's not going to fix anything.
Yeah,
it's still there. The stuff the Leslie Headland show is going to happen, all that crap, right?
Right.
But the positive note, though, is that if you absolutely want some Star Wars and you don't mind reading books, there's about 150 EU novels roundabout.
Yeah.
Plus the young adult books, which is probably another 50.
Right.
Or 60 books, something like that. It's probably more than that.
Yeah, we're just estimating, but yeah,
probably about 1,000 comics all in all, and 40 video games. Yeah, and you have the 6 movies.
Yeah,
so you have a pile of Star Wars. I mean, if you play the Knights of the Old Republic games, you can play them several times because they have different endings and you can use different party members, all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So they have replay value.
Right.
But if you think about it, though, if you have a certain amount of Star Wars, you have 200 books and 1,000 comics and all that. If you start collecting, it's not going to be forever because you have a certain amount.
Yeah.
There's a set amount until you have everything. And if you read all the books, all the comics, and you play all the games, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long is that going to take you? Probably 10 years because
Mm-hmm.
it's 200 books.
Right.
Right. So that's 10 years of Star Wars.
Right.
Of Star Wars you haven't read before or, played before, what have you. But
Yeah.
I bet you when you get, if you manage to do that, hell, 10 years, that's 25 books a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But if you manage to do it in 10 years, when you reach those 10 years, right, I bet you won't really remember what the first book was about, the first book you read.
Yeah, right. Or you just, like it's been that long that you're like, oh, I feel like revisiting it, whatever. And my point is, I'm going to say this point right here. The value of reading is much more higher with your own imagination than seeing the actual characters be bastardized in a lore they don't belong in.
Yeah, and the audiobooks are fantastic because the only thing they're missing is video, because you have the sound effects, you have the music, they do the voices. It's tremendously well done.
And they have John Williams' soundtrack in it, everything. Yeah. My channel has gotten strikes because I've used some clips because of the music more than anything else, because of John Williams' music or whatever. And that's the point here. The point is, okay, so no matter what's going to happen, even though evidence show that she's going to be here for the remaining productions that she's doing, right? And you don't like it, there's still hope. And hope is in the EU. Hope is in the EU, the original Lucas era of Star Wars. That's where hope is at. Bringing lore back in, like the supposed rumor of that they're going to use Heir to the Empire, that's not hope. That's just damage.
If you think about it, right? This is just Star Wars. It's one franchise. But you see all the franchises are in the same... Well, they have the same kind of problem with the fans. It's been disconnected from the fans. You have Doctor Who, you have Star Trek. What else? Yeah. Marvel and DC are getting a lot of stick.
Yeah.
All that stuff. So it's not just Star Wars. But since Star Wars, the Lucasfilm Star Wars, Lucas era Star Wars now has a set amount of products, right?
Right.
Because it stopped. There's no more EU being produced. That means you have a certain amount. And how is that different from other franchises that have the same thing? Like, the X-Files, Farscape, Babylon 5. Well, Ghostbusters is getting something new, but all those franchises, people still watch it. They rewatch something that has ended, right?
Right.
Has ended, it's over. Most likely you're not getting anything new, but people keep rewatching it.
Yeah.
And reading Star Trek novels from the 70s and all that stuff. So Star Wars is Lord of the Rings. I mean, that's there's been nothing new Lord of the Rings stuff since forever. That's straight from Tolkien. So it's that one's kind of been over for decades.
Right, and it's still beloved. People are still reading it, rereading it, watching the movies, all of that. And that's the point here, is that, there is still hope. Don't count on Disney, Lucasfilm giving you that hope. You have to provide that for yourself. And that is in George Lucas era of Star Wars. And don't let other channels fool you and saying them bringing it back in is going to create hope. It's not. It's just ruining what was beautiful. That you don't fix something that's not broken, right?
No, if it works, don't break it.
Right.
Especially when it comes to franchises.
Right.
But I see a lot more people these days that really hate on movies. That they get their hopes up and like, it was crap. It went woke, or the He-Man stuff. People were excited for that, and then it didn't pan out well.
Right.
But and I've spoken to people about this even on streams, and people are starting to look backwards to older favorite movies and even movies they've never seen before. right? Because a lot of people haven't seen all the classics.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of took that a bit to heart, and
Mm-hmm.
I was almost watching the Black Widow, but I was like, I don't really want to watch this. You know, people say it's bad and all fine, right? But it's just, I'm not feeling it. So instead, I went and watched, I think it was Citizen Kane.
Right.
Because I had never seen it before.
Yeah.
So I watched that one instead, and that was a win, you know, because that was one great movie, right?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, maybe it's good psychologically, or you know, for your mood or whatever. If you, instead of watching something you know you're kind of gonna get pissed off at anyway, why not just go back and watch something you're pretty sure you're gonna like, you know?
Yeah. Lady Toriel, read EU books, go poo poo, then whoosh when you read it. Fun.
Okay then.
Oh my god, girl, you're you're full of it.
I mean, basically, if the future looks shit, look backwards.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Soul Assassin, that new Witcher movie was good enough, though. I bet it's not the same as the book. Still a fun watch.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. It's not. It has nothing to do with the books, though. It's their own thing, but I don't think they ruined anything at all with it. You know.
Yeah. All right, so I know people have already heard what we started off with when we first read the EU. So I asked the chat, because I don't know everybody's starting point with the EU. So we have Blue Pig that says his was Allegiance, he thinks. And then we have or the Tales of Bounty Hunters. Sometimes it's hard when you read your first one. Sometimes you forget because you go through a lot of stuff, you know, since then. And the Sentinel. So Star Wars Episode 1 Journal, Darth Maul. It's still fantastic. And I want whatever coffee Lady Terrell is drinking. Okay. And then I have read the EU novel Rogue Planet. Okay, that's cool. Liquid Blake, what did you think about it? Because I get mixed reviews on that. On Rogue Planet.
Rogue Planet, that's the one with Anakin and Kenobi, when Anakin is still a kid. Yeah, I read that one. I didn't think it was the best one. But it was like, you know, it was perfectly fine. It's a young Anakin and Kenobi adventure, and I think it's the only one,
right?
As far as I can tell. So yeah, I wouldn't tell people to start with that, but I wouldn't tell people not to read it either, because I thought it was fine.
Yeah, and it kind of gives you insight to when you get into New Jedi Order.
Yeah, and I thought it did Anakin quite well, because Anakin was sneaking off to do races and stuff. I thought that fit perfectly with his character.
That was even in the comics too, and again, there is continuity right there, right? So yeah, and then so just got into the EU the past couple of years, Heir to the Empire. That's usually a lot of people's starting point because it was so beloved, and that's what got the continuity set and the direction of Star Wars as one history. So because of the success of that, I believe if there wasn't a book that was as successful as that maybe Star Wars wouldn't have gone the direction it did with the continuity. But that's just my thought. You know, that's just my thought. It says, yes, but who cares if they're Star Wars fans? They'll know. And then can you imagine if they were able to execute the Night Sisters and Dathomir properly? Even Darth Maul and Revan, people would have lost their minds and embraced it. Everyone wins, Disney and fans. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. If they would have been able to execute everything correctly and stuff, they would. It's okay. So The Last Jedi did fracture the franchise, right? It's like the Disney trilogy in general. But by the time Last Jedi and the beloved hero that everybody grew up and knew and loved was killed, and even when Han Solo was killed, that was the breaking point.
Yeah, I think The Force Awakens made it crack, while The Last Jedi jammed a wedge into it and broke it in half.
Right. So the death of there's just the treatment, the reboot, soft reboot, and the death of Han was that crack.
The problem wasn't that Luke died. really, because we know he dies. He died in the EU somehow. We don't know how.
Well, yeah.
But he shows up as a Force ghost in the Legacy.
Yeah, and I guess I'm wrong
Comics.
because I never had a problem with his death because we knew he was going to die. Crucible, we knew he's on his deathbed, nearly on his deathbed.
Yeah, he wasn't doing well in that one.
No, he wasn't.
And then he went into exile.
Right.
Fits with what George was going to do.
Right. And so it's not necessarily about the death. Some people it was, especially those who didn't read the EU, right? But for EU people, it wasn't necessarily about the death. It was the handling and treatment of Luke that basically put the nail in the coffin for a lot of people.
Yeah, and you can't overdose on the Force.
Right.
It's in and around you all the time anyway. It's not like you're drinking.
Right.
What is it? Pig said Shadows of the Empire is overrated. You know what? I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it's overrated too. And the reason I think why people might get disappointed with Shadows of the Empire is that it's not the full story. It's a multimedia product. And one part of the story is told in the video game. The Dash Rendar bit, most of it is in the video game. And then you have the comic or the graphic novel, whatever you want to call it. That one delves more into Boba Fett's story as well. So it's if you only read the novel, yeah, absolutely, it's overrated.
Right.
Because you feel like there's stuff missing.
Right.
And there is stuff missing. Absolutely.
Well, even with Boba Fett, there's a lot of the comics in that multimedia project that has Boba Fett. So they all have their little bits, but it's in separate media. And I get what they were doing with what they were doing, right? And George really, really loved the story and to almost making a movie out of it. Just imagine that.
Yeah. I think they were talking about an animated movie.
Right.
But you know what, though? If you're a book reader, right, you shouldn't have to play a video game to get the full story.
Right. It should just be something just to have you out of fun. Yeah.
They should have made the book thicker and had the Dash Rendar bits in it from the get-go.
Right.
I mean, not everyone likes to play video games.
Yeah.
You know, and people who play video games, they like different genres too. Not everyone would enjoy basically a third-person shooter, which is what the Shadows of the Empire is.
Yeah. And the thing is right here, Ronin Blade basically says main characters never meet up and no reaction to death. And he's talking about the trilogy, Disney trilogy. Correct. When we get to Crucible, and I don't know how many of you guys have read Crucible, so if this is spoilers, I apologize. But when we get to Crucible, like there's a scene in there where Han thinks Luke is dead, and I won't tell the details, so that's not too revealing. And he literally is like, come on, bud, this is almost like Hoth, and, blah, blah, blah. You need to get up, kind of deal. Come on, you can make it. And it was like listening to it, and it's unabridged. So if you get the Audible, it's unabridged. It's the whole story. So I read both and heard, I read and heard, and, listened to both. It is friggin' emotional what those three go to. It's like near deaths and all this other stuff. It is friggin' emotional. Something that Disney should have done. They should have gave us response of the best friends, brother-in-law, sister reaction on deaths. That is what is very meaningful. If they wanted them to appear, quote unquote, human, that's something they should have given the characters, is that chance, that response. When you read about it and listen to it on Audible, it is friggin' emotional. I mean, it was like I was in tears like the first time I read it. I was like, oh my God, because I had no idea. I didn't know if Luke was going to die or not because I know he was gone in Legacy.
Yeah. But the thing Disney did, though, and I don't know if you or the people in the chat remember this, but when they announced the Disney trilogy, you got that picture of everyone sitting there reading the script.
Right.
And Disney, I can't remember who it was, said that we will, the fans will finally get to see the original three back together on the Falcon again for the first time in, I think it was 30 years at that time. And Well, that didn't happen, did it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it did not happen. And then I'll go back to Crucible. I'll go back to Luke or Han and Leia's relationship. Leia holds her own as a knight. She's already a Jedi Knight there. We never get to see her make it to Master, but I don't think that really matters at this point, right? Because she's elder, she's and what have you. If you know the story,
was close to 70,
right?
I think.
And they're getting ready to retire, and so another spoiler, sorry, but so they're getting close to retiring and stuff. And she's been through so much, and like she's missing part of her hair. She hasn't had a chance to stay inside the Bacta tank from some burn scar she has on her face. I mean, there's a lot of shit going on, and she's been through hell and back. When Han sees her after not seeing her a while in that book, he looks at her and he basically says, basically thinks to himself that she's still the prettiest woman he will ever see. That tells me something.
Crucible was basically the retirement book,
right?
Because they did that book so they could push, Han, Luke, and Leia aside to make room for the new ones. You had Han's daughter, Jaina Solo. You had Ben Skywalker, and you had Lando Calrissian's son, who we never got to see much about at all, except for in that book, I think. Chance Calrissian, that was his name, right? Yeah, they were making room for those, and the Han, Luke, and Leia were gonna go off and basically be background characters, because they were getting old and it was getting silly.
Yeah,
like, if you're in your 70s, you can't really do action like you did in your 20s,
right? In your 30s and 40s.
Yeah, and the EU was getting criticism for that, and that's a fair bit of criticism too.
Oh, and what, they listened to the fans? Oh my God!
Yeah, they did. And the fans were reasonable. I mean, it is reasonable to say, Luke at the age of 70 shouldn't be able to move like he did when he was 20. He's a Jedi, but he's still old. Right.
And he even admits it in Crucible. He's like, I'm not like how I used to be. And it's like, it can be trippy, because if you haven't read like Fate of the Jedi and stuff like that, Crucible can be a little bit trippy, but I think it's a great book. It's a great send off. We get to see like Jaina in her, there's a little bit of Jaina in there, but not as much as there has been. And so we get to see Ben and him at the end saying, what are you talking about, Dad? And just really like being confused why Luke stays, basically saying that he's going on vacation, quote unquote vacation. And, so it's really, really good. It's a really good read if you want to understand. And when you get a chance to even look into like all the information that was shared about George's treatments that he sold to Disney Lucasfilm, you really see, like even reading out through the books, even the beginning of the book, you really see what George was planning for Luke in there.
Yeah. George Lucas even said it. Don't kill off Jason Solo, kill off Anakin Solo.
Right.
And don't kill off Luke.
Right. Don't kill off Luke. If it wasn't canon, he wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't have mattered.
Right. It wouldn't have mattered whatsoever. And people do not understand that. And then Soul Assassin says, looked like Luke was going to take a backseat mentor stage in his career, maybe even die as Star Wars continued under Lucas. Yeah, he had to eventually die. He still had that wound Abeloth and Force, gave him through the Force. So he still was even holding that, and couldn't even hardly heal from that. We knew that he was at his end. We knew that Han and Leia were at their end too, as in retirement. I would have loved to seen what would have happened with them, like how they would have gone if they were going to go down in a blaze of glory or what have you. I would love to have seen, Ben Skywalker making his way up to his father's position, if possible, or if he even does. That would have been great storytelling right there. I would have to seen Sword of the Jedi, and her marriage to Fel, and she's at the older age, so of course we're gonna eventually see pregnancy in a child or two born, because they are the ones that create the Fel Empire.
Yeah, and if you think about it, Luke is a Jedi, Leia technically is too. There's not that many Jedi that die peacefully.
No.
It's usually quite violent.
Right.
But I would have been fine if there was like a time skip and they could have, had Jaina just go, things were easier when my parents were alive, or something like that. Because Han, Luke, and Leia are pop culture icons, and Star Wars has one continuity. So if you kill them off, it's permanent, right? You can't undo it, and they have to do it in a way that makes sense,
Right.
And personally, I would have been fine with just, having said, that they passed away peacefully from old age or something like that. Han and Leia, at least. Luke should probably go down in blaze of glory, though.
Yeah, exactly. And so O.G.Starwars asked me, hey, Laura, have you and that Star Wars girl ever thought about doing a live stream together, discuss the EU? I might eventually ask her on talking EU. That would be fun. So stay tuned. I like to do 2 or 3 interviews a month to keep them far in between, just to keep you guys excited. And I am not asking only, I'm asking everybody who got involved with the EU. So it doesn't matter how big or little your channel is. If you have any history with the EU, even if it's just through games, that's fine.
So, I mean, and the EU is optional, entirely optional. You don't need any of it in order to enjoy the 6 movies. Well, in order to understand the sequel trilogy, you need all of the books and comics they've released, But it's different with the EU. It's completely optional. If you want to learn more about the bounty hunters, there's the Bounty Hunter War trilogy, and then you have the Tales of the Bounty Hunters.
Correct.
So it's there if you want it, And when you read it, it fits, except for Tales of the Bounty Hunters, which was written before the sequel trilogy. That's actually another issue because Boba Fett is different in it.
Very different. They're making him step up as a crime lord, which he never liked working for anybody. And he barely steps up as the Mandalore because he likes to be alone. But he did it.
Well, I'm talking about the short story.
Well, I know that. But I'm just saying in general.
He has a different name. Boba Fett is just his alias.
Right.
And the writer of that one said it was perfectly fine with it being retconned by George Lucas for the prequels. And
they took that, they retconned it and they corrected it. So they course corrected it. So now you can understand it as like, they take, bounty hunters take on various aliases and stuff like that. And so no one really truly knows their real name, and it's supposed to be that way. So I think they did a good job at retconning it. But if you know the whole story and stuff, you could still be off put by it a little tiny bit. But to me, the retcon, and as they developed it more and more, it started making more sense to what happened.
Yeah, but that particular story, though, I think was decanonized.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's a what if now. It's a what if spinoff now. So it makes sense they did that.
That book, though, is worth it for the Dengar story.
Yeah.
I thought the Dengar story was awesome.
Oh, cool, Rennie. Thank you. Drive safe. And so Stig,
it's a woman driver. I'm more concerned about the other people on the road.
Oh my goodness, she's fine. All right, so let's go ahead and get into that. So for the pre and the Old Republic, what do you recommend for first reads if the person wants to start there? Because there's many different eras in the timeline.
For the Old Republic?
Yeah.
The KOTOR game.
Okay.
I mean, that's what started it. It's 50 plus hours of Star Wars content. It perfectly introduces that time period. And if you like that game, then read the Old Republic comics, which are actually kind of like a prequel to the game in a sense. It takes place like 10 years before or something. And that whole thing was just released in a big omnibus. You get all of the comics now in hardcover in one big book. It's over 50 comics. It costs over $100 though. But, those comics and the games, I guess. don't start with the Revan book or anything, because all the backstory and stuff is in the game.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So like, if you really want to start in that era, pick up the game. And stuff. I didn't do that. I read the books first. So there you go. So once I
also if you're playing the second game, the second game was rushed out the door because Lucasfilm wanted to have it in the stores before Christmas, so it's not done. There's a lot of dead ends in that game and stuff. But the developers, in their spare time, in the following years, restored all the cut content and released it for free as a mod to the game, and it basically gives you the finished game, which makes it so much better. I mean, they even let out a planet.
Yeah.
Left out a planet from the game that was on sale, and that's back in there now. So if you want the complete Knights of the Old Republic 2 experience, get that mod and play it on the PC, because you can't get the mod for the Xbox or anything. But,
right.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Lady Toriel. She says, wow, I just hit a year as being a member of your channel. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And happy birthday. And then, I remember they changed Boba Fett into using Jester's Morale's name when he was a journeyman protector. And, you know, the thing is, like, I like how they evolved the Fetts, really. You know, we get Boba Fett who tries to make a family, tries to be a common man, right? And he gets betrayed, and he feels like he loses control. And I'm not going to spoil a lot of the story to why he leaves and stuff like that. And he leaves and returns to bounty hunting, and it's kind of tragic. And then you get the whole story, or the rest of the story, when you later on in Legacy of the Force, which is also a great storyline as well that you should look into getting. Okay, so let's get into the prequel trilogy. So it starts getting a little bit heavy there, not as much as after Return of the Jedi. So, Sig, what do you recommend to yourself?
After Return of the Jedi?
No. Prequel trilogy era.
Prequel trilogy. Well, Plagueis. Plagueis and Darth Maul Shadowhunter, because they take place at the same time.
Right.
Actually, I would read Darth Maul Shadowhunter first.
Okay.
And then read Plagueis.
Yeah.
Because Plagueis kind of spoils Shadowhunter. So Shadowhunter first, then Plagueis. And then in my opinion, those two books greatly enhance episode 1.
Right.
And and you have the approaching storm. No, sorry. Is it the Cestus Deception?
The approaching storm is before.
That's before episode 2, but it's the one. The other one with
Cloak of Deception is
Cloak of Deception takes place at the same time as.
Yeah, they're all around 32.5 and 32 BBY. So they're all around there. So they're all back-to-back kind of stories. We have Michael Reeves, who does Shadowhunter. Joe Schreiber basically does the Lockdown, Maul Lockdown. And then a Cloak of Deception is James Lucino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of deceptive things, Wilkins is in the chat.
Here we go. This isn't coffee chat, Laura. You don't have to have Stig on. We were discussing things about the future of Star Wars, and now we're talking EU stuff. What's up?
Well, this isn't your bedroom, Wilkins, so you don't have to have a G-string and a bra on.
How do you know what he's wearing?
Safe bet.
Safe bet. Oh my God. So yeah. All right. So welcome back, Matt Wilkins. I hope you are doing well, and share with us, where do you think, like, if someone wants to read or begin in the prequel trilogy era of Star Wars, what novel you recommend? So go ahead and share that in the chat. For myself, I do have to agree with that. Now, comic wise, it's kind of hard because each one kind of leads into the other, and there are some great comics in the prequel trilogy. Really, really good comics. Let's see here. Are you saying we match today, Stig? Oh.
Well, my favorite color is purple. So you tell me.
And here we go. So go ahead and share in there. Okay, so let's get into the classical era, which is basically the dark times or the rebellion era or the empire era. So let's get in. Let's do before the movie. So what do you think? I would say Kenobi novel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then the Dark Lord, Rise of Darth Vader. So those kind of two go hand in hand.
Well, you can read either of those in whatever order you want. It's basically Kenobi and Anakin's story branching out from Revenge of the Sith. So they happen at the same time, kind of.
Yeah.
So you get to see where Kenobi went and how Anakin,
right,
what happened to him. And both of them are tremendously good, especially the Kenobi one, because it's very different from other Star Wars books.
Right.
It reads almost like a Western, kind of like Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood. If you've seen that movie, it's a little bit like that. He's trying to not be a Jedi, and it's very psychological. That probably I think that's the best written EU novel in my opinion.
Okay, sure.
Well, I think it's the best written one.
Okay, you're like, I just think it is. Hands down.
Well, it's
you're not biased.
No. I'm actually not biased about this.
Okay.
It's written as a deconstruction of a character, kind of.
Right.
It's character development in reverse, almost.
Done right as well.
Yeah.
So it's Kenobi having to refigure how to restructure his life, not as a Jedi, but still train as a Jedi. So and
side note.
Okay.
Kenobi, in my opinion, can be read as a standalone novel, even if you don't know anything about Star Wars.
Okay.
Because it basically just takes place on a desert planet, right?
Right.
There's you don't even have to have seen Revenge of the Sith. All you know is that he thinks he's killed a brother at some point, right? And that story ends with the Kenobi story, with the book. There's no follow-up or anything. So, even if you're not a huge fan of Star Wars, even anything, I still think you could enjoy that book and know what's going on.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. And like I said, like I was going to say here, if you like to listen to like audibles, Kenobi is unabridged, and it is fantastic because it's the whole story. That it's not plot heavy and stuff's not cut out. Then you get the pleasure of hearing the emotion behind it and stuff. You have the John Williams music in there, Star Wars music in there. Beautifully done. One of the best audibles I've ever listened to. I wish Dark Lord, Rise of Darth Vader was unabridged. That one right there, I really love that, because when you read the book and even listen to the novel on Audible, we have the instance where, Vader has to go and investigate something on Alderaan. And we already know by that time, Bill has Leia. And so we have that little drama there. No, there's no contact whatsoever, what have you, but we get to see, Belle's reaction to what's going on. And I'm going to say this, between the two novels, they're both like parallel to each other. We get to see Anakin/Vader in his new form, right? And then we get to see Kenobi dealing with what had happened in the aftermath, right? And so they run parallel with each other. Now, when we get into the series that's coming, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, they are hinting of, or they're saying there's going to be a rematch and there's going to be this and there's going to be that. I think it was well done without any contact between the two.
Yeah, George Lucas even said it in an interview after Revenge of the Sith that Kenobi and Anakin won't see each other until that final, their confrontation in Episode 4.
Right.
So there was never intended at all that they would have a rematch. But another thing though about the Vader book and the Kenobi book, they go in the opposite direction of each other, because Kenobi is trying to avoid combat, violence, what have you. He wants to make peace.
Right.
Be at peace somehow.
Yeah.
Peace with himself, while Vader goes in the other direction.
Yeah.
He becomes more and more brutal all through that story and becomes more and more Vader.
Right.
And he's more and more action oriented so they basically go in completely different directions.
Yeah, and rightfully so because Kenobi, when he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it right. He's the man of his word, and he's trying to make peace with himself. He's trying to make peace with everything. He's trying to put everything back together, and part of that strategy is protecting the hope, and that's Luke.
Yeah. Oh, Mazer is in the chat. That's a fellow you should consider for the EU interview.
Yeah.
Okay. Huge EU fan.
Nice.
Nice guy too.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to reach out to and get him on there. Maul's final death was ridiculous enough contact. Yeah, I didn't like that as well. I love Dark Lord, Sentinel says. Yeah, so that's the thing right there. But when you get closer into the timeline of A New Hope, for me, if you're a big, huge Han Solo fan and you want to learn like how him and Chewie came together, everything about him, I would suggest the Han Solo trilogy, but that's just me. So getting closer to the timeline there, I really, really like that novel there, that trilogy. Is the Han Solo trilogy, and the Lando Calrissian probably as well. But I mean, for Han, since he's one of the main OT characters, I think that's a great read because then you understand like what was going on, why he is the way he is in the OT. You really, really don't need it, but it just adds more to the story.
Yeah, and I think both of those books set up Episode 4 quite well.
It does.
As a background thing to those two characters.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's get into now. And then, of course, as we get through the OT era, there's many books that you can pick up and read. But the one in between 4 and our 5 and 6, if you want to learn how, what happens and how Luke gets more training and stuff like that, and how they basically track Han is in Shadows of the Empire that we were talking about earlier. That's a fun read in itself, but I mean, not recommended, but if you want to get into that and you want to learn more what happens before Return of the Jedi, there you go. And then, so let's get into the New Republic era. So that's basically from 4 ABY all the way to 22 ABY. So that's a huge time gap right there. And there's like the X-Wing series in there. There's like Truce at Backora. We have Heir to the Empire. We have the Corellian trilogy. So everybody's going to say, pick up Heir to the Empire. But let's go ahead and skip over that. What would you also recommend?
Well, the Thrawn trilogy is kind of like it's like a center point of the EU. Mm-hmm. So it's like a hub. People start with that one and blah blah blah. But I'd say a Truce at Bakura because that's like a day or something after.
It's like hours after, basically, like days, hours. Yeah, it's like a day or just like hours.
Yeah, after Return of the Jedi. It's not the greatest book in the EU, but if you want to know what happens after Return of the Jedi, that's immediately after.
Yeah, I think it's fun read. That was my start off book. Really, that was because I'm crazy like that, and I like to go. And I really think like Luke, like we get to see and see how Luke is feeling right after. We know what's going on with Han and Leia right after, and even Wedge. So this is kind of like a kickoff story for the EU, or for them after Return of the Jedi for all of our heroes. And I think it's a fun read. It's not, I'm not trying to put it down because I really enjoyed it, but it's not the quality, or not close to near, but not close to Zahn's Heir to the Empire, or, the trilogy, but it is a great read and it kind of expands on everything that's going on in their lives right after.
Also, it, from start to finish, even if it's not the greatest book, it still feels like Star Wars.
Right.
It absolutely does. And the writer, even if the writer didn't like make a brilliant story or anything, it absolutely honored the characters.
Yeah, right. And the New Jedi Order it's a series in itself. It's a 19-book series, but I do know some people that have started with the New Jedi Order and were happy starting there. And the New Jedi Order, though, if you like a dark story, if you want to see dark story that's not the Imperial Remnant, like them trying to finally, not, like, I wouldn't say destroy, but basically, I don't know. I can't find the right words for that, but it's not.
You know what? I think the New Jedi Order storyline would not have happened if it wasn't for Star Trek The Next Generation with the Borg invasion.
Okay.
Because it's remarkably similar. And I think the people who came up with the New Jedi Order series was very much inspired by that Star Trek show.
Yeah, so R.A. Salvatore was the first one to kick it off.
Yeah, he did the first book.
Right.
But they did plan a long series.
Right. They all got together with Lucasfilm licensing and stuff, all the authors that are involved. And so I'm pretty sure, like, a lot of these writers that we have they cross franchise, right?
And I think Star Trek The Next Generation series had just ended like a year or two before. So I feel confident in saying that they were inspired by that show, because every sci-fi fan out there, except for me, watched it and loved it. I was in school and stuff, so I simply didn't have access to it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just missed it.
Right. Right.
And it's tough to get into now, though, because I've tried, and season 1, Will Wheaton is in it, and I'm like, it's a drag.
Okay, I haven't seen it, so I can't compare. So I have to take your word for it. But that's the thing. So New Jedi Order, I can't really say which book to start. I'd say the first book, right? But some people have started with the New Jedi Order first as their first, foot in the door for the EU. And, there's a lot of them that liked it. Yeah, there's some people that hated it because they don't like dark Star Wars. There's new enemies. And so they didn't quite really care for the new enemies because they're not dealing with the Imperial Remnant anymore, right? And people die. People actually die. There's no character that was not safe from death or harm. Maybe Luke was, because of the back behind the story. They wanted to kill off Luke for the first book, and George said nope.
Yeah, but George did say that they actually could kill off Leia.
And yes, exactly. And so,
but he said not Luke and not the droids.
Yeah, Luke and not the droids. And they didn't want, like, the fact that they were, like Han going. So basically they're like, well, it's just off the Wookiee. So sorry, you guys, I spoiled it. But...
I saw an interview with Bob Salvatore about that.
Yeah.
And he was told to start it off, and he had to kill off a main character. He was told to do that. So he was like, well, they're going to hate me. And then he had to, he said he had to look at, the characters. He wasn't allowed to kill Luke or the droids.
Right.
So he had Han, Leia, Lando, and Chewie. And he didn't want to kill off Han or Leia because that would royally piss off the fans.
Right.
Couldn't kill off Lando. He's the only black guy. He'd be hunted down for that. So he was left with Chewie. Right.
So Chewie does take but he goes down heroically. I didn't have a problem with it or whatever. And Mazurus, I don't know if you were here when we were talking about Crucible, basically was a segue into what could be possible, like the trilogy and handing the torch down to Jaina and Ben and Jagged Fell. So yeah, so I get what you're saying. And that would be after Crucible. And I know Alana Solo's back at the Hicks Consortium with her mom by then. So that would have been interesting to see what happened with her as well. So there we go. So, there's a New Jedi Order. Basically, I wouldn't say pick a book out of that. I would say start with the beginning, Vector Prime. it's a very dark storyline, but I think I really like it. There's some books that I'm like, they're okay. That's with every story series. You're always gonna have one that you really don't care for, but it's there. It still kind of ties in the story, but it's slow.
If it's 19 books, everyone's gonna have a book or two in there that they think are duds.
Yeah, right. There's always going to be that. Yeah, there's always going to be that. There's always that chance when we're all not going to agree with which ones are going to be our favorites or not. We all have varying opinions and stuff, and that's what makes us great. And then, so I'm going to skip over to Legacy Era. So Legacy Era, we have Legacy of the Force. We do have some standalone novels like Coruscant, Riptide, and Millennium Falcon, and Fate of the Jedi. And then it goes into the X-Wing Mercy Kill and Crucible. Now, I wouldn't tell you to start in any of those for your first reads. I would have you go earlier in the timeline. However, make your way up to them because that's a great timeline.
There. The Legacy of the Force books are worth it. It's worth all of it. But I'd say don't touch them until you've at least read the New Jedi Order books.
Right. And even Darkness Trilogy, that to me, I like the read. That one's a mixed story. Not everybody's going to agree with me, but we're all not going to agree anyways, right? I liked it because of the continuity in there. I'm very big about continuity. I like the discovery of discovery of Padme and how that story and how they discovered who their mom was and stuff. And I also like the nod to Jason starting to going dark and stuff. There's a lot of depth in there. I know some people don't like it because of the bugs, and you guys are all Han Solo fans because he hated the bugs in Darkness Trilogy. So, but to me, that was a great read. I liked it because of the continuity. I liked it because we've seen Luke struggle in there as well. And like him getting paralyzed, thinking that Mara's going to die, and all that. So I think that was a great, we still seen great development even with Luke Skywalker himself. And then I haven't read the New Jedi Order books, and I still like the stuff they include from in the Legacy comics. Okay, so whatever we shared, I'm sorry, it's spoilers for you, but get on it. You need to read it. Read those books, and then let me know how that goes, what you like and what you don't like. Because, like I said, you're gonna like some parts of the story, and then you're not gonna like and then you're gonna not like the other parts. Let's see here, Mazeras, have you done a topic stream yet on where the EU might have gone? Had we been blessed with more of it? Not exactly, but I have talking about it a lot, and I still stand with that. When you read Crucible and you take a look at the ideas George Lucas was doing for the Secret Trilogy, the treatments, it all goes together. Like even the beginning of Crucible, where Luke is doubting his training and where the Jedi are going and blah, blah, blah. And at the end where he basically goes on by himself in sabbatical and tells Ben that everything's going to be okay, that he needs to take a break. And then Han and Leia also retiring. That was handing down the torch, right? And it also goes with what was being delved in with Lucas treatments as well. So that would be good to do. Soul Assassin, I have a series of books following the rule of two Sith Order would have been something. Start at Zana and work your way down to Plagueis. God, just imagine if we got the Zana trilogy.
It was going to be I thought it was going to be 2 books.
Is it going to be 2 or 3? Am I just being overzealous?
I think it's 2, and I think it was another 2 books. One for each of the Sunrider sisters.
Okay.
It was a Nomi Sunrider one, and was it Lima?
Lima, yeah.
Yeah, it was going to be one book
Lima or Lima or something like that. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, something like that. So, yeah, you had the Sword of the Jedi trilogy, which is 3 books with a female protagonist. You have Darth Zana, which was 2, and then the Sunrider ones, which was 2. So that's 7 books with a female protagonist that Disney canceled because they wanted more females in Star Wars.
Right.
Think about that one. That's some logic.
Right. All right. So we wanted to, discuss what we've been seeing with the direction that Disney Star Wars is going, and then turn it into something to where to start with in the EU and get you guys excited about that. This is what my channel is about. My channel is about not breaking news, not necessarily, but it is about preserving George Lucas era of Star Wars. That includes the movies, like all the TV programs, like even the Ewoks and all them, right? The droids and all that. the comics, the novels, the games, all of that was made under George Lucas and got his blessing, got his help, whatever, how much he was involved with or how less, it was still under George's name, right? Because it's his company. And so this is what this channel is all about. So those who are coming in that really don't know much about my channel, this is what this is about, is George Lucas era of Star Wars. And so if you guys haven't had a chance to pick up the EEU, here are some starting points, you know, and go from there. You can start anywhere you want to. I'm not telling you where to. You might like the prequel trilogy era more than anything else, so we gave you advice for that. You might like the Old Republic. You have advice for that. Post Return of the Jedi. There you go. And then it just really gets...
you know what though? If you like comics,
yeah,
I'd say the prequel era has the best comics.
Right. We were discussing that this morning.
Yeah. That's just my opinion. Well, but overall, I always thought the prequel comics really added to that time period and the movies.
Right. Right. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, there's comics. There's so many choices there. There's so much to read. Wherever you start at, you're going to have years of material to read. Years of it. Will we ever get new EU? We did get 108, but I don't trust the direction Disney Star Wars is taking the lore. That's why I'm not talking about it, other than, you know, talking about the rumors and all of that. Yeah, so that's what this channel is about. And, you know, every Thursday morning, coffee chat, unless stated. Next Thursday, no, I'm going to be on, you know, somewhat of a vacation, getting ready for a family event. Yeah. And then talking EU, getting to interview you guys. Like one day I'll have Samuel on here, you know, and it's not about how much you know about the EU. It's about what you know and why you got started, and just what makes you love the EU. And I want to showcase you guys like that. That's why I do Talking EUs. I want to showcase you guys and highlight your love of Star Wars, and how you got started with it. And that's just to show that there's many of us out there that love it and that have our own adventures, our own story, our own starting point with Star Wars in the EU. So, so that's what this is about. And, you know,
yeah, I mean, these streams are pointless without the people in the chat.
Right. They are. And it's because of you. And thank you guys so much. So whether if you're a channel member or not, you are greatly appreciated. Whether you super chat me or not, you're greatly appreciated. I adore you. And I thank you so much for your support. And at any time, if you guys have any questions about the EU, or, you know, you're going to head to the next book, or you want to start in the comics and you haven't started reading the comics yet, like me, because I've never gotten to the comics, then we are here for you. We are here for you. That's what this channel is about. I like to do fun facts. I like to do compare and contrast. I like, you know, a lot of things I like to do with this channel. But the main point of this channel is George Lucas era of Star Wars. And so that's what this is about. And I am happy to be here with you guys. So Stig, do you have anything else you wish to say before we close out?
No.
Okay. All right.
Just, you know, keep in mind what I said earlier about, you know, if movies that are coming out and you find, you know, you couldn't care less, you know, look back, watch movies you haven't seen before from, I don't know, from the 80s, 70s, 90s, what have you, or get into older TV shows that you haven't seen, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's forcing people to watch, I don't know, Birds of Prey or whatever, you know, whatever movies that people tend to hate, right? Because they fuck it up. Nobody's forcing you to watch it. You know, just go back and watch something else.
Yeah, it's JJ. Well, hello, O.G.Starwars.
Hi, JJ.
Trigger. Hi, how are you doing? We are about basically getting ready to end the stream here. We had a very important discussion about Kennedy and her contract and the direction with Disney Star Wars, and no matter where Kennedy is at, and even in her retirement, does that really mean that Star Wars is saved? That kind of talk. But then we segued into, talking about the EU and George Lucas era and where to start at. And that was the whole point of the stream, is basically saying, okay, so if you're fed up with the direction everything's going, there's not going to be no change, really. There's not going to be. So whether you stick with it with Disney Star Wars and the original EU and stuff, that's up to you. But
and you know what? If all this news and stuff, I just simply put you off Star Wars, get into a different franchise. That's allowed too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
If it's just making you unhappy, get into something that's making you happy instead.
Yeah.
It's not like you're betraying George or anything if you decide,
it's not his Star Wars.
if you just can't do it anymore.
Right.
Just get into Batman or something instead, as long as you're happy, right?
Right. Go where you're happy or whatever. But the thing is, for me, I want to keep this out in front of you guys because I believe it's worth fighting for, like the EU, like the original, or at least, keeping alive through the channel and what we do here and stuff. And in fact, before we go, Saturday, the 28th at 1 p.m., we are reviewing X-Wing Rogue Squadron, the first novel of the X-Wing series. That's like post Return of the Jedi. Shortly after Return of the Jedi is when it's like 2 years after, or something, like 3 years after, in the timeline. And if you love Wedge and what he does to continue on with Rogue Squadron and the creation of Wraith, this is a great series to get into. And so that's Saturday, the 28th at 1 p.m. I will have a few people on the panel. Miss Martin uses Rev Kev. I don't know about Stig. If he can finish it by then, that's cool. And that's okay.
I have about 300 pages left, so yeah.
Get to reading. But anyways, no pressure. But here we go. And so that's going to be a great read. I think I emailed Matt Wilkins and see if he wants to join us. I'll have to check my email. I haven't checked it in a couple of days, but maybe Matt Wilkins. Hopefully that would be fun to have him as well. But that's a great series to get into, especially if you want to see all the space battles and what they do with missions and how they liberate Coruscant. Because basically, this is the series that shows how they liberate Coruscant from the Empire's grip after Return of the Jedi. So a little bit of spoiler there, but still, it's a great series as well. And so stay tuned for that. That's on the 28th. And if you are a channel member and you come to that live stream, your name will be put in for the drawing of the Rat Attack painting I did, Mistress of Rat Attack. So here she is. And so for those who are just joining and doesn't know much about this, is that the members of my channel, or if you become a member and come onto any live stream from now between now and October, you may have a chance of winning a copy of this painting. And this is Mistress of Rat Attack. This is the original Ventress with her original planet behind her. And I actually did that painting. So there you go. So I can't wait to have that drawing to see who the copy of this painting goes to. I'm excited for that. And this is all in gratitude for you guys supporting my channel. And members who don't, once I get it up into a website where you can order it, you get 10% off your purchase for it. So there you go. So either you get a free copy, win a free copy, or you get 10% off. So there you go. So that's just my way of giving back. And again, here we go. I'll go ahead and share this portion here. So author Michael Stackpole and Alan Alston is basically another contributor to the series. And so it's Dowry Books. It came out in 1996. Timeline is 6 ABY after the Battle of Yavin. And here you go. So that's just this short information on that. So stay tuned for that as well. And thank you guys for coming in and listening to this conversation. I please, when you hear rumors, do your investigation, put everything together, make your own assessment. Whether you agree with me or not, that's fine. When it comes to the Kennedy Civil War debacle, I don't believe in it. I don't. And but if you do, you do you, right? That's all I got to say. So thank you for coming in, having this discussion with us, and then also discussing the EU. I could sit here for hours and do that, but I don't have the time today. So thank you guys so much for coming in. And as always, you guys have a great night. And I think Casual Rage is on tonight on Raging Rhino's channel. So please go check that out and support. They are also going to discuss things about Kennedy as well. So there's some other viewpoints on that. So you always do your research and always listen to all sides. There's more than two sides, right, Stig? There's more than two.
There's my side and then there's wrong.
That's what Stig thinks, at least. So there you have it, everyone. So again, thank you so much for your support. I am happy to be here for you guys, sharing the love of Star Wars, and may the Force be with you.